Hey there, it's me Eden. If you are new to the channel, then please subscribe to my channel and visit my Patreon page for early access, link in the description. I dropped what I was doing and went over to him, throwing my arms around his neck. I hugged him and said, "Oh, thanks George, you're a star." As he struggled out of my grip, a bit embarrassed by the situation, I kissed his cheek and then we parted. Soon after, I was on the telephone to Debbie. "He's agreed about Saturday," I said, excitement escaping from my voice. "Told you he would. That means shopping for an outfit tomorrow," she replied. I laughed. "Any excuse, I don't need anything more," I said. "Hey, whose idea was this? A shopping trip is the least that I should get as a reward." "Okay, then shopping tomorrow it is then," and I hung up. The second call was a bit more difficult. "Christ, Alex, you can't show up at your dad's birthday party dressed as a woman," Mum said. "It's either that or not at all. Look, nobody's ever saw Amanda. We make the excuse that I'm ill-bedridden with some stomach bug, etc. Then at least I get to be there. Anyway, no one else knows about this, do they?" She hesitated. "Well, Ashley does," she answered. "Why the hell did you tell Ashley?" I asked. "Alex, it's been hard knowing about this. I needed somebody to talk to about it." "I suppose, and is she okay with it?" "Well, to be frank, she found it hilarious to start with, but I think she sees that you done it for the right reasons. Anyway, you'll need to stop soon. I mean, it's only 3 weeks till the start of term, so you'll need to get back to normal soon." "Maybe not," I answered. "What do you mean maybe not? You're not changing your mind, are you?" "Look, this situation hasn't gone any further, has it?" she asked. I could feel myself blush slightly, knowing exactly what she meant. "No, it hasn't. It's just that I rang the education board and explained that I had a family situation that I was dealing with. They agreed that I could defer my post to Christmas if I want. I've not decided yet, but if I need more time here, then I can have it." "I hope you know what you're doing," she asked. "Yeah, I do. I just need a bit more time to make George see sense," I replied. "Well, that's all then, okay, but about Saturday, please be careful. Your dad would have a fit if he finds out," she pleaded. "I will, Mum. I promise you won't even recognize me." "Never mind, Dad. I'll see you Saturday." With that, we hung up and I began to think some serious work needed to be done. Debbie got her wish, and come Wednesday we were off for our regular shopping trip. This one, however, turned out to be that little bit different. I know now why she did it, but at the time I was a bit surprised. We arrived in Glasgow, unloading Melissa as usual into her buggy, but as we approached the shopping galleries, Debbie sprung her surprise. "Okay, Alex, off you go," she said, gently removing my hands from the handles of Melissa's buggy. She eased herself between me and the buggy. "What do you mean off you go?" I asked. "Just that, off you go. Me and Melissa are going for a nice walk down by the river and an ice cream and a coffee. You, on the other hand, are going shopping for an outfit for Saturday." I looked at her, mouth open. But I can't go myself. I need you with me," I stuttered. "Why?" Because I said." "No, you don't need me with you. Now off you go," she said as she started to wheel Melissa away. Debbie, come back," I called. "See you by the Riverside Cafe in a couple of hours," she called back as she disappeared into the crowded city streets. I stood for a minute, unsure of what to do. I'd never really been on my own as woman Alex. What was I supposed to do? Standing here in the center of a busy street was not going to help, though. I stood out like a sore thumb. I opened my bag and took out my cigarettes. Lighting one, I inhaled, letting the smoke ride to my brain to calm my nerves. "Well, I'm here to shop. I guess I better get on with it," I said to myself as I started to walk towards the main shopping mall. 2 hours later, I walked along the Riverside Quay, heading towards the cafe that Debbie had mentioned. 5 carrier bags hanging from my hands, the light breeze swishing my skirt, the heels of my shoes clicking on the tiled walkway. I spotted Debbie and Melissa sitting at a table and waved ahead. "What was all that about?" I asked as I reached them and sat down. "What?" Debbie asked. "Sending me off on my own like that." I'll get us a coffee and a bun. I'll be back in a minute, then we can talk, Debbie said as she rose from the table. I checked on Melissa, who was asleep in her buggy, no doubt tired out from Debbie's attention, as she often mumbled these days. Me, I was awex in her limited but starting to grow vocabulary. I sat back down and lit a cigarette, crossing my legs and awaiting the return of Debbie. I stirred my coffee as Debbie lit a cigarette and began to talk. Alex, ever since you been your femme self, she said in a hushed tone, she went on. You've never really been on your own as Alex. Either George or Pete or me have been around acting as a sort of crutch to help you along. Given that the party is on Saturday, I just thought that sending you out on your own like that would be good for your confidence. I sipped my coffee and thought about what she was saying. She was right in some ways. Today I had strolled along bust city streets on my own as Alex, comfortable with my female look and attire, walking comfortably in heels, interacting with shop assistants and a couple of fellow shoppers just as if it was an everyday thing. Oblivious to the truth that I was soon to be 23-year-old guy. My movements and mannerisms had been those of a genetic female the same age. My eye for fashion had been just the same, while my voice might have had slightly more harsh edges to it. It was not enough to betray my identity. In effect, I passed without thought and blended in like everyone else. I exhaled a cloud of smoke and crushed the cigarette out in the ashtray. You right, I suppose, Debbie. On Saturday I need to convince people that I'm Amanda 100%, so I need all the confidence I can muster. She smiled. You'll be fine, she said, squeezing my hand as she crushed out her own cigarette. Now, more importantly, what did you buy? She asked with a smirk on her face. While I showed Debbie my purchases, which somewhat bizarrely included a shirt and tie set for George, I thought some more about what Debbie had said and indeed how I felt. The longer this went on, the more divorced I seemed to be becoming from the male Alex. My thoughts were those typical of a mother: Melissa's welfare, fashion, house decor, all the typical traits of a female. My interaction with Debbie was, with the exception of that one night, typically that of a relationship between two women interacting in a female manner. In truth, I didn't really know where the old Alex was anymore. The rest of the week passed like lightning. Bright and early Saturday morning I rose and got Melissa something to eat. I dressed her for the day ahead, packed some extra clothes for her to change into should she need to or if she got messy. I put on some breakfast for George and then once he was awake and up, went to grab a shower myself. I packed a bag of some toiletries for myself, makeup, perfume, etc., etc. I redressed in a pair of jeans and a white blouse to travel in, planning to change at Mum's on arrival. I packed away my dress in a clothes hanger and picked up the shoes I had bought to match as well. I packed away a skirt and a top and another pair of shoes in case of any emergency and then went downstairs. Downstairs, George was tidying up the kitchen while Melissa ran around making a nuisance of herself. "Come here, babes," I called. "Aw, X," she cried, running across the room. I picked her up. "Now we're going on a trip today, to a party," I said, taking her side. She giggled. "And I want you to be good for me and Daddy. Can you do that?" I asked. She nodded her head and I let her down. "You about ready?" I asked George. "Yeah, just about. Remember, we need to be careful today," he said. "Yeah, I know, it's me that's got more to lose." "You got the story straight. Alex in bed with a bad bout of food poisoning, Debbie calling in on him to see how he is from time to time?" I asked. "Yeah, I'm cool with it. It's not that difficult, is it? Look, let's get going." I rounded up Melissa, while George collected the 3 bags, and we stepped out into the bright sunlight. It was going to be a hot day, I thought, as the sun caught my skin. The car started and we moved as we paused at the top of the drive and then pulled out into the main road. I thought once more, yep, it's gonna be hot, and if I don't get this right it could be even hotter. Just over 50 minutes later, George was pulling the car to a halt outside my parents' house. Predictably, I could see Mum at the window, anxious probably to meet us before Dad did and maybe give us some warning or piece off her mind over what we were about to do. She walked down the driveway as George unloaded the bags. I let Melissa go and she ran to meet her, hugging her legs. "Hello, darling," she said as she took Melissa's hand and continued towards us. "George, Alex," she said, greeting us. "Mum, it's Amanda, remember," I said in an irritated tone. "Bloody stupid idea if you ask me," she said. "Look, Mum, we talked about this on the phone. I want to be at Dad's birthday, and without ruining all that is going on back at the farm, I couldn't just change back for the day." She sighed. "Where's the birthday boy?" George asked, trying to cool the situation a bit. "Oh, Uncle Frank took him down to the local for a pint. He'll be back in an hour. We're setting up out back," she replied. "I need to get changed for the party, and I'm sure George would like to freshen up," I interrupted. "God, it's really got to you, hasn't it?" she said, "but okay, change upstairs in my room, and George, you can use Alex's old room at beside the toilet. I'll take Melissa out back for a little while," she said as she turned and left us. I looked at George and just raised my eyebrows a little and shrugged my shoulders before we followed her up the path. Upstairs, I laid out the new outfit I had bought during the week. It consisted of a very pale blue silk dress, straight cut about calf length. The top had 2 spaghetti straps. It was slightly low cut at the front but had a rose made from the same material just at the center of the chest. I had matching 4-inch pale blue sandals with silk ribbons which you crisscrossed up your legs and calves before tying it in a bow at the top. That was another thing that had changed about me: the eye for fashion, the need to mix and match colors. I suppose it was not new to me totally, as after all I'd watched my mum and sister do it for years. I reapplied my makeup and then picked up the small white leather shoulder bag. Dropping my ciggies, lighter, lipstick and some face powder in the bag, I checked myself in the mirror. I looked good, I thought, so now was the test. I opened the door and closed it behind me. Walking to the stairs, I was on my way to meet my fate. The numbers were beginning to swell and I noticed a couple of Dad's friends as I stepped off the last step. They turned and looked at me. I knew both reasonable well. They smiled as they would at someone they did not know, and I walked past, returning their smile. 2 down, only another 100 to go, I thought as I stepped out onto the patio. I spotted George wearing the shirt and tie I had bought earlier that week. I made my way over. "Shirt for okay?" I asked as I reached him. "Yeah, it's fine. Any problems so far?" "No, nothing. I've only seen a couple of people I know." "Remember, whatever happens tonight, we just have to roll with it for Melissa's sake," I said. "Yeah, I know, but let's hope it does not get too complicated." "Drink?" he asked. "Yeah, fine white wine and soda," I said as he left me. Please subscribe my channel for the next part. And visit my Patreon page for early access.